Welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. We're once again brewing up a storm and bringing beer and coffee together in frothy unity as we talk Espresso Martini beers. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hello, hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us!
We've not done a cocktail episode in a while.
We haven't done a cocktail. We've been trying to gather them, haven't
we?
We've
been trying to do.
Yeah.
Because what happens? Basically, what happens is behind like let's pull the curtain back. What happens is we'll be like,
scenes, guys.
We will see so many like espresso martinis. They would be announced. It would be like, look at all these espresso martini beers, and we'd be like, oh, it's like Pokemon. We got to catch them all. This is great.
Yep.
And then it's like as we start buying these particular beers, like by the time we get around to buying them, like sometimes you can't get them, sometimes and then what happens is it's like, cool, now there are none.
And we're getting like, oh yeah, we were going to do that episode and we didn't get those or whatever, and
or we don't get around to it, and then one goes past its BBE, and then we're like, well, we can't do that anymore, so let's thankfully with one of the ones here, I think one was going to be past its BBE, and then they re-released it, and we were like, yay. So it worked. But yeah,
we've got different beers.
Oh, what do we have?
I've got Yonder.
I don't have Yonder. So this will be fun.
Yeah. No. Oh, have I got your
This
Yonder?
is even better. You might have my Yonder. Well.
And I don't know where my new Bristol is.
There you go. This will make it even more interesting.
There
this
is
how...
We've got different beers now. This is how this works.
Welcome back to the first recording after Christmas.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're fairly far through January now, but this is actually probably our first recording since Tori got back from the US. And apparently we are not as on it as usual, but we have Espresso Martini beers. And we have Espresso Martinis. You've made one, haven't you?
I did. Well, I've got one in a can. And then I have literally made one because, basically I feel like everyone knows what an espresso martini is, but what is an espresso martini? Like, what is in an espresso martini? So it's vodka, a coffee liqueur, obviously espresso, and typically, like, from a global recipe standpoint, it tends to be simple syrup. So I'm not going to lie to you, I did not put simple syrup in mine, even though I have simple syrup because for Christmas... For Christmas, I definitely told you about how I wanted that set from Costco. That was the tiki glasses. They had a set of 4 tiki glasses, and I sent to my in-laws a message going, whoever has me for Secret Santa, this is within budget. If you want to get me these tiki glasses, please feel free. And I was just joking, but I was like, joking, but seriously. And I did, but seriously, I do want them. And I did get that as my Secret Santa gift. And I was like, oh, this is great. And they had simple syrup in it, but I kind of forgot as I was making this that I had the simple syrup. But either way, I like mine on the coffee side. Like, I like mine on the coffee side. I did use for mine vanilla vodka. So it tends to be the ratios that you put in. It's about 1 part coffee liqueur and espresso to about 1.5 parts vodka, and then typically, depending on the recipe you use, it's normally like a half part to a full part of simple syrup. Obviously mine, this is what happens when I make mine, and people tend to like mine, but then they are like, it's lethal. I just eyeball it, because my cocktail shaker, if you're watching the video, my cocktail shaker, one of the ones I have, has like lines on it and everything. So I just kind of go, that looks about right, that looks about right, that looks about right. Shake it all up.
Pours the vodka with her heart.
I do. I pour the vodka and the espresso with my heart, and I go, oh, I like this.
That's the same way she does cinnamon.
That's what. That's the way I do a lot of things, is I pour it by heart. It's, I put my heart into everything I do. Like, if I go to brew day, I will hug your fermentation vessels. I mean, I'll put my love and soul into everything. Cocktails are no different. So I made this with an eyeballed 1.5 parts of vanilla vodka, because instead of using simple syrup, I was like, we can just cut that right out and we'll just use a slightly sweeter vodka. to an eyeballed part of coffee liqueur and an eyeballed part of espresso. And for Christmas, I got a lovely gift from one of my friends that I work with. We went to her house one day and she had these like bags they've got coffee in them, and you basically put boiling water in it and it kind of like steeps the coffee in
tea bags,
the coffee bag.
Coffee bags. And I can't call them tea
but
bags.
no, but they're not, because there's coffee tea bags that you put the bag inside a mug. This is a full on. I don't have it with me to hand, or else I'll show you. But this was a full on like pouch that you put the hot water into, and there's a whole filter on the inside.
Yes, I have those.
You got those for Christmas, didn't you?
My advent calendar was. Yeah.
So, and I think when you got that, I was like, I've had those, and they're really, really good. So she got Rick and I, her and her husband got Rick and I like a set of those, and I got her some good Chem beers because she really wanted some good Chem beers. So I got her that and a glass with the good Chem. Like there's like a little rubber duck on it. It's great. I got myself one because I'm FOMO, so now we're twinning. But then she got us these coffee bags, and because she's like, oh, you liked them when you came to us, and I was like, yeah, I'm down for this. Like this is great. And I made myself a cup, not realizing that those bags make 2 cups each. So I had kind of like a cup in a bit this afternoon. Oh, it's quite a big bag.
Oh, you got a big one, right?
Yeah, the back of it says that it's 2 cups each. I would say probably is 2 cups because I've still got some in the fridge. I made myself some, topped it up and everything, and I still had like a good portion left. So recommend them. It was really, really good. And I thought, you know what? Even though I've got a can of espresso martini, I'll just use this cold coffee and make another one. And some people refuse to have an espresso martini, like if there's not fresh made espresso in it. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not picky. I'll use espresso. I'll use like any type of coffee. I don't care if it's espresso or not. I'm like, if it's coffee flavored, I'll do it. So yeah, that is that's how I've made mine. I'm gonna give mine my shake now. I've put the ice to the side because I didn't want to. I didn't want to dilute it, but
she
put
came
some coffee
through
in
with
it.
A massive amount of glass.
It was by mistake. I wanted like one more piece, and I got my fridge dispenses the ice, so it basically all came down. I was like, "Oh, that's great!" So I did what you should do with espresso martinis, and I chilled my. I've got a glass for each. I chilled them because I'm sure someone will tell me, "Oh, don't do that." But no, from my understanding of what I've learned with stuff like this. Like an espresso martini, you chill the glass. So that's what I've done, and I'll let you correct me if I'm wrong. And now I've got to shake it for a good amount of seconds. So do you want to crack yours while I shake mine? Yours is going to have a nice sound to it.
Yeah, so I've got one of the Funkin' Nitro cocktails in a can espresso martinis. So that's
I love that one.
Fun.
I'm a fan.
And I also have my martini glass. So yeah.
I'm going to let you crack yours before I start shaking.
Yeah.
Ooh, that sound. Someone's gonna be like, "This ASMR is the worst thing that I've heard." It's cocktail ASMR. Just deal with it.
I'm slightly sad. It's not really got a very good.
Does it not? No frothiness to it on the top.
Nice, though.
We're going to talk about frothiness in a bit when I give you some facts, but we're going to hold off on that for now. Yeah, my other one is it's a Moth brand espresso martini, and I've never massively I think I tried it before and I didn't massively love it.
Yeah.
But then I think that's just because I kind of like my own home brewed situation where I just kind of go. This is the level for me. But yeah, if you look at that frothy Tina there.
That looks good.
Ooh.
Yeah, mine's not very frothy. I'm slightly upset that mine's not very frothy.
Let's get this pour on the go. Ready? Oof. This is the moment where I find out that the Kahlua has been sitting in my cupboard for a very long time. I don't have any beans to put on top of it, but yeah, look at that. There's a nice little frothy froth to mine, but that's because, again, mine's home poured. Cheers. We had a long day.
It's been a long
this
life.
Is coffee number 3. Did you say it's been a long life?
I did.
That killed me.
This is nice. This is very sweet. Oh, and it was.
I really like mine.
Mine's only 5%. It doesn't taste 5%. It tastes like a very sweet coffee, and I could probably suck this down far too quickly, listeners.
So the one that I've made myself tastes fucking fabulous, which I knew it would because I really, not to toot my own horn, but beep beep, I love my own espresso martini. But this one that I'm about to pour, just because I'm going to have 2 on the go, because why not? It's 14.9%. And I think it almost just like, the last time I had it, it just came across like too boozy that it's almost like not enjoyable. She says it spills over the edge. Let me clean that up because that's not particularly great to have around electronics. I mean, it's in terms of the smell of it, like compared to the one that I made myself, there's no head on it, but you can get a pretty good like coffee aroma. It doesn't smell too boozy. Let me have a sip of it. It just tastes a bit like flat coffee. It doesn't taste 14%, which is quite scary. It tastes like a sweet coffee. It tastes like when you have made a cup of coffee and then you've let it sit. It doesn't taste like iced coffee. It tastes like coffee that you made hot with lots of sugar and like milk in it, and then you got pulled into a meeting, and then that meeting turned into back-to-back meetings, and then you go back to your desk, and then you kind of go, but maybe it's kind of like iced coffee and it'll be all right, and then you take a sip of it and you go, it's just cold coffee, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Do you know that? Do you ever find yourself in that situation and you kind of go, I like iced coffees. I'm sure I'll like this. And then you take a sip and you go, oh, I mean, it's a bit different, isn't it?
The taste of disappointment.
It's like the breakfast of champions, but instead it's the taste of disappointment. Oh, that could be like the title of my book right there. I think I prefer mine. This one's not bad. I actually recommend it if you want something it's only a tiny little can as well, 125ml. I do recommend it, even though I say at the start, I don't love it. It's just because I really like my own, but everyone likes their own brand.
But I do enjoy it. It's 200ml. I enjoy it. Like, I can imagine cracking that on the train.
I have cracked one of those on the train, so there we go.
Let's be real. Where would I be drinking an in the can cocktail?
Yeah, arguably I wouldn't disagree with that. It's not even always a conscious decision. I will tell you the exact scenario that I'm doing that. It's normally I am at London Waterloo and I go about 15 minutes before the next train. Might as well pop in M&S real quick. And then I'm like, oh great, it's 2 or 3 or 4 for whatever price. Get some cocktails, get some tinnies. Get some tinnies for the train tinnies. Oh, what was it? Somebody taught me a phrase of what their son calls. Someone I work with was telling me that how their son calls like we call like train beers or like tinnies or whatever. What did he call it? He called it a it didn't call it like, so in the US you'd call it like a road soda. Like you'd be like, oh my god, my road sodas. She told me it was called something like like she gave me a name and I went, what? And then she went, that's what my son calls it. And I went, that's the greatest thing that I have ever heard. And now I'm going, it's been one of those weeks where every day's felt like Friday. Oh, you know what'll happen? It's like mid-sip. I'll be like, oh!
It'll come to our listeners. Keep listening.
It will be stuck in my head. And then it's like some type of rhyme that just, I was like, that is absolutely excellent, and I really appreciated that. Something that it's something juice. I know that something juice, and I was like, "What?" And it was absolutely brilliant. But stick with me; I'm sure it will come back. But yeah, taste of disappointment. I can't even tell you the thing that was going to be really great. Well, do we have one beer that's even the same? Mm-hmm. What's the one that we have that's the same?
Wiper and True.
Let's start with that one, so we can Let's start with the same one, so we can at least baseline it.
Yeah. All right. So this is Espresso Martini Shake. So as if you've been around here for a while, you might know that we are big fans of milkshake from Wiper and True.
So good,
such good beer. So this is their version of it with as an Espresso Martini one. I got us these in Sainsbury's.
No. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, this one did come from you because I then got us, because I think when I went to Wiper and True, when I was working in Bristol and I was getting us stuff, I was like, did you get us this already? Yes or no? And you're like, I've got it. I was like, okay.
Yes.
So I did not get it.
Yes. But I'm excited because, I mean,
I love milkshake.
Milkshake's so good. And I love that on the can there is a drawing of the cocktail, but the stirrer is the spaceship that is on that's on the milkshake cans. Fun. Should we just crack into it?
Yeah, mine might still slightly be cold because it's so effing cold outside.
Yeah, mine's quite cold. So we'll see.
I'm doing my best.
There we go.
I'm doing my best, guys.
We had tasting panel at work today, and we were struggling to taste and to get some of the aroma off of some of the beers because it was so
cold. Oh no. I have a pouring problem today because I've just spilled this again all down me. Oh no, not really spillages, just all down me. Not really. It's fine. Everything's fine. This is fine.
Everything is awesome. Oh no, wait. We might have to pay royalties. Stop doing that.
Don't do that. I need can you can we edit some flames behind me? I'll be like, this is fine. We're all fine.
Well, that poured beautifully.
Mine didn't really, and I think that's because A, my glass probably, and B, it's cold.
Tap.
It's so
cold. Mine's a really nice dark brown, basically black actually.
Sometimes it's hard to tell because sometimes I want to be like, oh, there's a bit of a red highlight in there, but then I realise when I'm holding it up, it's just the light from my microphone reflecting in, and I go, because I go, that's unexpected and that's weird, and then I move it and I go, oh no, it's the microphone light. Great.
You do have to be careful of the light on the microphone.
If I whipped my RGB microphone out, this would be party. It would be insane.
Mine's got quite a nice, thick, foamy beige head on it.
Mine does not. I have nothing further to add here.
And I'm getting quite dark roast coffee off of it.
I'm getting quite dark chocolate, I think. Rich dark chocolate, I would say. Some roastiness.
Yes.
No, I wouldn't say, for me, it's not really the direct coffee aroma for me, but I think because of that, rich chocolatey type aroma to it mixed with that roastiness, I can my brain puts the pieces together and says coffee, but it's not, for me, it doesn't land in the same way as say if I held the actual espresso martini up to my nose and I go, that's very coffee, roast, that is full on roasted coffee. This is more some of the characteristics of a coffee as opposed, I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying, but some of the individual characteristics of coffee without it having that specific coffee smell.
Are we going in?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Interesting. For me, it just tastes like milkshake.
Yeah, I think there is dark roast coffee in there. I think it's got more bitterness than regular milk.
I was going to say,
so smooth.
I was going to say there's a little bit more for me, slight more carbonation to it than milkshake, and then just that tiny bitterness, but bitterness in a coffee bitterness more so than a roasted
bitterness.
Yeah, I agree. But it is very similar to milkshake. I don't know if I necessarily get it as an espresso martini. I get what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have this and go oh, that's would I give this to someone that likes espresso martinis? Probably not, but I would give it to someone that likes coffee stouts.
I mean, I feel like maybe you could use it to make an espresso martini.
Yeah, you absolutely could.
If you added the vanilla vodka to it, it would probably get more espresso martini straight out of the can. Yeah, I agree. We benchmark these by would someone who enjoys this drink this and think, yes, these are the flavors I expect. It's delicious. I don't think it's necessarily espresso martini exactly, but it is. There's definitely coffee. It's more roastiness than I expect.
There's not the same sweetness. I think the espresso martinis has that sweetness to it. This doesn't have that sweetness per se.
I am a
I
big old
enjoy it.
coffee beer fan, and this is a delicious coffee beer.
Yeah,
It's a milk stout, so
it's
ticking
hard to
boxes.
say because it's like you don't, when we say exactly as you said, like we're rating this
Yeah.
in terms of, for us, it's like, would you give this to someone that is like, I don't like beer, but I love espresso martinis? And is this basically like gonna fit the brief for what they love about an espresso martini? And it's like, well, it might do. Like I wouldn't even put this in the category as we've put some stuff before where it's like a full-on no.
Yeah.
This is something that's kind of like bordering, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't have that same sweetness that an espresso martini has.
Yeah.
But it's very good. I
It's
enjoy
good
it.
I keep going back and drinking more while we're sat here talking. But yeah, if you compare it to the espresso martini, it's not as sweet.
I think I get more bitterness from the beer than I do
Yeah.
from either of the two espresso martinis, because I think
Yeah,
the espresso
definitely.
martini is both what I made and the canned one, just the sugar cancels out. That
Yeah.
sweetness cancels out the bitterness in the coffee. Like it's not like I used, and that might have changed had I used a different type of coffee or like proper espresso. That might have changed in mine. But
Yeah.
no, it's
And
really
I
good.
think because the alcohol in an espresso martini is vodka, there's that element about it, and the beer just doesn't convey that element. I mean,
Well, you also have the Kahlua, or in my instance, I use Kahlua, but you could use Tia Maria. You could kind of use any flavored coffee liqueur, and I think that adds a creaminess. Like that adds a bit of body to it, a creaminess to it that I think is probably hard to achieve in a beer unless you're adding something like lactose to it or something along those lines.
But this has got lactose in it.
Does it?
It's a milk stout. Yeah.
Yeah, but just it doesn't have that.
It's
like
got, for a milk stout, it's got high, for a milk stout, it's got high carbonation. So it's not overly carbonated, but for a milk stout, it's got a real, like, it's lightly carbonated for a beer. In a milk stout, you kind of want it to be smooth and creamy with a little bit of a tears. The level of carbonation is quite high in this for a milk stout, so that's kind of making it less cocktaily for me as well.
I think that's where my brain's going at, is obviously like I just sort of not really looked at the back of the can. I've just kind of gone, for me, it doesn't have that same creamy element. But then I think that's also because it doesn't matter how, it almost kind of doesn't matter like lactose level that you're putting in the beer, full stop anyways. Like, is that really going to compare to something like a liqueur, that a creamy liqueur? Like, can you really kind of go like, if you put that against a Bailey's or a Tia Maria or anything like that, can it really compare to that smooth creaminess? Like, don't know. But you're right, I do think it's got a little bit more carbonation than you'd expect. Not in like a massively noticeable way where you're like, oh, there's that tiz of carbonation per se. It's noticeable in, I think, the way that we're looking, because of how critically we're looking at it. But like, if someone was just like picking this up and drinking it, I don't think one of their tasting notes would be like, oh, it's carbonated, because it's not. That's not something. It's not strong enough to be like a tasting notes carbonation.
No, but for the beer style and for what we're looking at, there's more carbonation than I would like. I'm being critical from a different point of view than usual. Like, from a tasting point of view, from a beer tasting point of view, this is an excellent beer.
Oh, so
I'm
good.
Enjoying it. It's going down far too quickly.
Yeah.
From an espresso martini,
I've just topped it up like twice now.
I don't think it's sweet enough. I think that level of carbonation takes away from that a little bit. But it's still very tasty coffee milk stout. Like,
I'm kind
of
go back
to my favourite types of beers to drink, and it is quite delicious. I was looking at the list of ingredients, and interestingly, cacao nibs is higher up on the list than coffee, which I find interesting, because I would have probably done it the other way around. But I suppose because it's milkshake, that's a chocolate that has that cacao nibs in, so I suppose it's the balance between those. But I feel like I'd like more coffee in this.
Well, yeah, I think it's interesting because, like, for me,
from an espresso martini point of view,
I think for me, my senses naturally picked out more of the cacao than it did the coffee. But I also think that's because I tend to be more sensitive to like being able to pick up the cacao in stuff.
You do.
Obviously, like coffee, I look like. I think also I have a very specific thing in my head of I drink a lot of coffee. Coffee is at least one, if not two or more coffees a day. And I think like, proper brewed coffee. But I think in my brain, I have like, this is what coffee should smell like. And I have a very specific, this is what cacao smells like. And so for me, I just picked up the cacao over the coffee aroma, I think. I still really enjoy it. I still really like it. From a beer perspective, I love it.
It's a great beer.
But if I do back to backs, I'm a bit like,
right. If you're looking for a beer that tastes like an espresso martini, I don't think this is it. If you're looking for a dark beer, if you're looking for a milk stout, if you're looking for a coffee beer, if you're looking for a coffee milk stout, if you're looking for a tasty beer, this is the beer for you. If you're looking for an espresso martini beer, it's not quite hitting the mark that I am looking for.
I will say, when having it back to back with the one that I made myself, I'm like, oh, that is very drastically different. Having it back to back with the Moth Espresso Martini, I think there's more similarities there.
Okay.
Just because I don't know. Like, I don't know if maybe because in mine I have vanilla vodka, which is like amped up the sweetness in it a little bit more. But I think there's a little bit more of a similarity. Maybe I'll just like let this warm up a little bit, so see what it tastes like.
I think we should definitely come back to it like at the end, because let it sit a little bit, let it warm up a little bit, see if a bit more of those volatiles come out. Definitely.
Well, we can let it warm up a bit, because I can tell you a bit of the history behind espresso martinis if you want.
Oh, yes, please.
So yeah, the origin story, so to speak, of espresso martinis. So the credit goes to London bartender Dick Bradshaw. Apparently, so this is how much that, as much as I love making cocktails and like playing around with cocktails and all that stuff, I didn't realize apparently he's quite a big deal in the cocktail world.
Oh, okay.
He's quite apparently
dude.
Innovator, a disruptor, lots of stuff. A disruptor. I don't really know. I didn't really dig into how he was a disruptor. It's just like anytime I was Googling sort of the origin story. So basically, when I do this background research on some of these cocktails, like I'll look in the origin story and I'll cross-reference across like numerous places, because I want to make sure that I'm getting the same facts that are sort of referenced across the board. And this one, it's just like when you click onto things, it would be like, oh, like innovator, disruptor, this, and I was like, oh, disruptor. But then I was like, I don't really need to know how right now. This is a later me problem. So I'll go back and look at it later, I'm sure. But I mean, he got my attention because I was like, apparently he's a big deal. But yeah, so he created it. He's credited as creating it in the early 80s. So some places will claim that it's 1983 specifically. Okay. But it just says early 80s, and this was when he was at a club called Soho Brasserie. So the legend states love a good legend, and this is referenced in quite a few places, and it's the only one. So unlike some of these other stories where we're like, could be this, could be that, could be this, this is kind of the only one, and where it's in the 80s, I'm inclined to believe that there's truth to this legend. We're not talking about centuries ago. But legend states that a young fashion model who was a customer on a night out wanted to kind of keep the night going, basically asked him for a drink that would, and I quote, so when I say this and you don't edit it out because this is not me, she wanted a drink that would wake me the fuck up. And thus the espresso martini was born. I guess it's because, so my understanding from looking at websites and stuff was that potentially this club had just gotten an espresso maker, and they were like, oh, what can we do to make a cocktail? Why he decided to put the things together he did, I don't know, but obviously he was an excellent mixologist, so he probably knew, if I put coffee with this and this and this, like, see how it gets on. Yeah, it was a hit. So yeah, I mean, it was originally, so hilariously, it was originally called a vodka espresso. Within the first few years, I think it's something like first like 3 or so years, it was known as a vodka espresso as opposed to an espresso martini, even though it was always, my understanding is it's always been served in a martini glass. And I guess for the sake of it, the popularity was more because it sat alongside the rise of cold coffee drinks during the 80s. So it was seen as a trendy choice for people wanting to look sophisticated, but also get that caffeine buzz. So yeah, that is sort of the brief origin story / history of the espresso martini. But I kind of want to look into this guy now to find out why he's a disruptor.
How was he a disruptor? I
don't
like
know.
You're leaving us on a cliffhanger. And also,
as I do, that's my thing now.
Compared to like other cocktails that we've looked at, this is quite a young beer, right? A young cocktail, right?
I've got it. What I just said triggered it. Journey juice.
Journey juice. Okay.
as in my brain, I was going, as I tend to do, is leave you on the cliffhanger that I can't possibly follow up. This one, it came back into my head. I was like, oh, I got it now. Journey juice. And I don't know why it made me chuckle. And I just went, that's great. And I'm going to use it now. So yeah, there you go. Journey juice. Anyways, back to Disruptor Dick Bradsell.
This is a relatively young cocktail compared to some of the ones that we've looked at.
Comparatively, yeah.
Which is interesting. I don't know why I thought something might be why the 80s seemed. I was like, oh, that seems I fresh and new.
I don't think that if you asked me to guess the year, that I would have been like, oh, the 1980s.
No,
I wouldn't have said the 80s. I don't know what I would have said. I definitely know it would have been within the 1900s. But yeah. I would have said within the 1900s, but I maybe would have gone somewhere after Prohibition. But I don't know, maybe I would say I probably would have potentially guessed like maybe 50s, maybe 60s.
Maybe 50s.
I don't think I would have said 80s.
I don't know why the 30s feels like, because there was, lots of enjoyment in the 30s. But I mean, that was all gin, wasn't it? So
that's it. Is I would associate like 1920s and like, Prohibition and all that. I would have been like gin, those type of...
My non-beer alcohol history is not that great.
Also, I guess to be fair, this was like a US... Well, no, this one's not. This one's a London-based cocktail, but a lot of like what we think of when we think of some of these like cocktail culture tends to kind of be led from US culture outward. So when you think of like, oh, what about the decade of the 1900s? Like the 1900s, when you look at that from then up until sort of like 2000s and onward, I think when I kind of think of cocktails, I don't know why my brain does go to things like the 20s and like the Roaring 20s and gin, and I don't know why. That is just where my brain goes when I think of the popular cocktail decade and Prohibition and party, and
that's kind of when like
Gatsby,
partying and like letting loose was kind of happening. So you feel like people were freer, like clothing was more freeing, and like
comparatively to that time, that's like I've got my ankles out, and people are like, "Ooh, girl, look at you."
I mean, women didn't necessarily wear corsets, but I mean they were still kind of padding themselves down because they wanted their figures to be more boyish because of the shapes of dresses. Like, but that whole shapeliness of a woman changed. Like, there's a whole thing. The lengths of skirts, women cut their hair really short, like that was taboo. Like all these things, like motor cars were really coming in, like all of this kind of freedom and excess. So that's where you think all of these kind of things come from.
I will just say, I'm actually impressed that we know this much history off the top of our heads.
Right?
Like the fact that we just rattled off all these things and we're like, none of that's written down. So yeah, you're welcome. History.
We just did that off the cuff, guys.
If you ask me to tell you, like, my age, probably gonna get that wrong because math not my strong.
She definitely got that wrong last year.
Math not my strong suit, but I can rattle some of this stuff off. That's fine. I inputted in, so I did some Google searching, but then I thought to collate it, I'm going to make it easier, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT. I'm going to go back to our old friend ChatGPT, who will collate everything on the internet for me. Amazing. Thank you. From 2011 and before, not anything after that. But thank you, ChatGPT. I asked for an exhausted 2011 and prior list of espresso martinis. Variations, and I thought, do you want to hear some of the weird and wonderful? I can give you some wonderful first and then end on weird. So well, there's a White Russian espresso martini. So that's vodka, coffee liqueur, fresh espresso, but then you float a layer of cream or milk on top for an indulgent twist.
That sounds delicious.
That sounds lovely. And I love a White Russian.
Yeah, same.
Genuinely love it. I love the danger element of it, of like, let's put cream with alcohol and see what happens. That's wild. Love it. We had salted caramel.
Ooh.
I'm here for that.
Everything comes in salted caramel nowadays.
I feel like this
I'm here for it.
I'm happy for that. The next one,
I'm fine with it.
I feel like there's no need for this. Chocolate orange espresso martini. There's no need for it. This should be in horrible, not wonderful. Mint chocolate. That sounds like a bit. I like mint chocolate. You do not like mint chocolate.
No, that can get in the bin.
So a mint chocolate, but I don't like this one. So the mint chocolate one, it seems like you're adding a hint of mint liqueur and then you muddle fresh mint in. I think muddling fresh mint to me is a no. But if I was going to put a little bit of like creme de menthe in it, hell yeah, I can do
that's
that.
what I thought was going to end up being in it. No,
I can do that.
Mint leaves.
Yeah. Oh, the chocolate orange one. It's chocolate liqueur and a hint of orange zest, and I'm like, ugh, I don't need that.
You hate that.
No,
just don't talk about zest around her. She gets very upset.
Yeah, absolutely not. Obviously, you've got Irish cream, which just uses Irish cream, so that's fine. Maple bourbon espresso. That sounds fabulous. So it's to swap out vodka for bourbon and add a drizzle of maple syrup for a rich and flavorful variation. That sounds amazing, but then I go back to the question of when we're talking variations. If the recipe is vodka and you are removing vodka, is this a variation or is this just a new cocktail?
Drink, right?
Like, why don't we just call this maple bourbon bonanza? And just take the, don't call it espresso martini. Just call it, I don't know, whatever you want. Something else. Maple bourbon, other things. Like, at what point of that line do we go, we've removed the the part that has the biggest serving size in the cocktail, we're swapping that entirely and we're just going to continue to call it what we're calling it because the espresso's still in it, so it's okay. That to me is just, this one's a good one. Pumpkin spice espresso martini.
I knew you were going to bring one of these up. I was going to wait for this to come up. I was going to suggest it if it didn't come up.
Obviously it was going to come up. Don't be ridiculous.
I know you. I know. I knew this was going to come up.
Honestly, get out. I wasn't going to say that. Right. So you just add pumpkin spice syrup. That's it. Ooh. Or pumpkin flavored liqueur, but I think that's harder to come by over here. I'll just add the syrup. So that's fine. In a similar vein, which I thought that I thought you'd appreciate this variation, a cinnamon espresso martini. So a dash of cinnamon syrup to an espresso martini. So that's good.
Dash is a
well, it's relative, isn't it?
It's a measure with your heart.
We measure, it is a measure with your heart. A dash of it.
As I said earlier, Tori measures cinnamon with her heart.
But then you also, I do. And you also have like the gingerbread espresso. So that's like the espresso martini. So you do gingerbread syrup instead or ginger liqueur. So that's good. And one of the more interesting ones that I couldn't decide if was good or bad was a lavender honey espresso. So it's with
coffee.
Yeah. So this says infuse the cocktail with floral notes by adding a hint of lavender syrup and a touch of honey. Don't know how I feel of that because I'm guessing it's all the same, but then you add quote unquote a hint of lavender. I don't know where you just get lavender syrup. Is that a thing you can just get?
I mean, I suppose you can just make it. Can you not just infuse like simple syrup with lavender?
I guess. I don't think I'm qualified for that.
But I don't know if I want lavender and coffee together. Lavender and honey, yes. Lavender and coffee.
Ooh, I'm going to give you some of these bad ones now. Okay. And they're pretty bad.
Oh, are they?
I'm not going to lie to you. It's really hard for me to even pick a top few because so many are bad that I want to tell you about. But I'm just going to try to pick like top ones that are just immediate no. Okay. Balsamic vinegar espresso martini. So incorporate a splash of high quality aged balsamic vinegar to a tangy and slightly sweet element. And it says it's an unexpected flavor combination that might just surprise your taste buds. I don't think it will. I think it will surprise it in a horror movie way. Would you?
I'm putting my hand up. I would try it because I love balsamic vinegar.
I love balsamic vinegar, but like
think of it in terms of Duchess.
Yeah, but I don't want that with coffee.
I don't know. I feel like it might be
That's
interesting.
vile.
I'll try it.
can't. This
try
is
it.
splitting the crowd. Let us
I
know
would
what you
try
think
it.
about this. This is split. Would you try these? Yes or no? Like, we'll run through. You come
Yeah.
back to us. Would you try them? Yes or no? Balsamic vinegar. You say yes. I say
I'd try it.
immediately no. Tomato espresso martini.
Absolutely not.
So that's tomato infused vodka or a splash of tomato juice.
That's a big no.
Big no.
No.
Big no. Blue. This is what the fuck. Blue cheese stuffed olive oil. No, blue cheese stuffed olive garnish espresso martini. So instead of a coffee bean garnish, go for a blue cheese stuffed olive, and somehow that makes all of it a blue cheese olive espresso martini because you've changed the garnish to something absolutely disgusting.
Okay,
No,
so
you're going to try this, aren't you?
no, absolutely not.
That's a face of someone that's not that's open to it.
No, I'm not. I'm not open to that. But here's my thoughts on this. Right, I have thoughts. You are quite correct. I don't think adding the garnish to it makes the whole thing that. I think that's incorrect. But I feel like that garnish has come from fancy dirty martinis. And
it's vile.
Why? But I don't know why you would put that in a one with coffee in it. No,
it's vile. Absolutely vile. We've got here's an interesting one: saffron and cardamom espresso martini. I'd be open to trying that.
I'd be open to trying that
because I feel like that's sort of a bit like chai tea element.
Yeah,
sort of sit like we're bordering over there.
Yeah,
that's right. Nice. Here we go. Curry espresso martini.
No.
Infuse the cocktail with a touch of curry powder. I feel like ChatGPT's gone rogue.
I think it has. It's making its own things.
It's making it up. He's like just putting things from multiple websites, cooking websites and cocktails. We've got soy sauce, espresso martini.
I can see like that touch of umami in it. I can see that.
So it does say replace simple syrup with a small amount of soy sauce for a salty and savoury. It does say variation adds an umami note. So there we go.
Okay.
There's wasabi espresso martini.
No.
No. Black pepper.
No.
I don't think I want that.
No, I don't want that.
And I guess finally, let's end on miso espresso martini. So it just says incorporate a small amount of miso paste.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, sorry, no, I've got a better one because this is so oddly specific. We're going to end on this one because this one is so oddly specific. It's just interesting. Cucumber wasabi foam espresso martini.
Oh, absolutely not.
Create a foam topping by blending cucumber, wasabi, and egg whites. This not only adds a visually interesting layer, but also brings a refreshing and spicy element.
Oh, no.
No. No one asked for that. No one asked for that.
Nobody asked for that.
No. They had a cereal milk one, but I went, oh, that sounds too nice. I can't ask you about that one. That sounds way too good.
Take your cucumber wasabi foam and stick it on a Bloody Mary over there away from me.
Way over there.
Way over there. Away from me, thank you.
I just love how it's so specific. Cucumber and wasabi foam. We're not putting it in there. It's just the foam on top.
It's the foam on top.
Excellent. So there you go. There's some interesting variations, some weird, some wonderful.
I'll try the balsamic vinegar one.
I think like it's not something that like, but this is the real genuine question. Like any of those, to be fair, if someone, I would say any of those. Okay, that was a bold statement.
I'm going to say, I was like, really?
The majority of those, if I was not paying for it and somebody was like, I ordered this, have a sip, I'd probably have a sip.
Yeah.
Minus like the blue cheese one and that weird foam one. I'm like, is not on. But all the other ones, of course I would try it if it wasn't my drink and that wasn't what I was committed to for a whole round of drinks and I was paying however much for it. But like, would you order the balsamic one to try it? I feel like you would. That face says you would.
I think I would.
I would not. Because what if it's
terrible?
terrible?
On a menu. Like I need that to end up on the Motel 1 Sky Bar menu next time I'm in Nuremberg because they have it like an additional menu. They do a pomegranate margarita, which is
well, yeah, I'll take any margarita that's a fruit margarita. That's not a normal margarita. A strawberry is my top pick, but
I would try a balsamic espresso martini. I would do it.
Ugh, to each their own. Anyways, should we move on to my new Bristol, and you've got a different one?
I've got Yonder. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Right, I'm going to park the rest of this over to the side because I want to let it warm.
Yes.
A bit and see what happens. It's already definitely warmer, but I would like to let it warm a little bit more, to be honest. I'm going to have my little palate cleanse of water, and then we'll crack open our two very different beers.
Yeah, so I've got the Espresso Martini Truffle Coffee and Dark Chocolate Candy Stout from Yonder. This was one of their like Christmas time beers. I believe I've got one for you.
I think you do.
That's what we decided.
I've got the Espresso Martini Cinder Toffee Stout from New Bristol Brewery, which I know you do have somewhere.
I've got one of those somewhere.
I mean, at least the difference is you've got this one. I don't have the Yonder one.
So here's the thing, right? So over the Christmas holiday period, I had a tidy up, and I separated. Like I've got a box that's got all podcast beers in, and then I've got other stuff in the fridge. So it's got to be in my podcast box, but I do not remember finding it.
To be fair as well, this one did go past. I will be completely transparent as well. This one did go past its BBE like towards the end of last year. You can still, but like I know that I've definitely still seen it in shops, places, so you can still buy it.
It's a stout,
and it's a stout, and that's it. And it's not a milk stout. It's not like anything that I think is going to be wildly outrageous. But I, benefit of the doubt. I just want to put that out there. That to be fair, we had an older one that went past it. I had an older one that went past its BBE, and I was like, I cannot use this anymore. And then they rebrewed it, and I was like, yay!
All right.
Oh, that ASMR, I love it. Oh, it pours really nice though. Oof. I love watching it. Like when I just poured this, it was like the head started up there and then just kind of started going down. And it's like really just beautiful, like layered, like cascading down the glass way. It was lovely. Oh my God, the honeycomb is strong in this one. This smells like straight up honeycomb.
Mine doesn't smell very nice.
Does it not? Oh,
it smells metallic.
Oh no. Mine smells nice. It smells sweet.
It tastes nice though.
Were you nervous? Like your face looked nervous for a minute. I'm like, oh no.
Nervous. I don't know what's going on with the aroma because it smells like the inside of a can.
Whereas mine, I'm worried mine's going to be the opposite. I'm scared to drink it because mine might be the opposite, where it smells beautiful and like honeycomb. I don't really get the coffee, admittedly, but I do get a lot of toffee honeycomb to it. Now I'm scared to taste it. I'm scared it's going to taste bad.
Mine is proper boozy.
Oh no. You definitely get... It's definitely toffee and honeycomb in terms of the taste are like the strongest taste, but there is like this underlying coffee element to it. It's quite rich, I would say. It's very smooth, quite rich, not bad. Would I say there's almost like kind of a, as weird as this sounds, kind of like a milky element to it, like a milky creamy type of element to it as well, alongside that toffee. Like it sits quite it wouldn't sound like it does, but it sits quite closely to that toffee honeycomb taste. It's like kind of sitting very along the lines of that as well. But not what I would say for an espresso martini, but then I guess the argument is it's like a variation on the espresso martini, isn't it? So it's an espresso martini cinder toffee stout as opposed to just a straight up espresso martini. So
so don't smell mine, but
it'll be interesting. The one that you've got for me, it'll be interesting for me to crack that. What we should do is we should do a bonus episode where you find your New Bristol, I have the Yonder, and we do a swap.
Yes, okay, well, watch out for that, everybody. So it does taste, like a rich truffle, chocolate truffle.
That's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it exactly tastes like that, like espresso martini truffle. It definitely tastes like a truffle. It tastes like so it's really reminding me of the insides of Thornton's champagne truffles, and they had white chocolate around the outside, but then it was a dark chocolate inside with the champagne in it, and it tastes like one of those.
I do love champagne truffles. That's the thing. And I don't know if I've convinced myself I like it because they feel elevated because it has the word champagne in it.
Right.
Or if I'm like, I'm fancy and classy and I like champagne, especially when they're pink, you're like, oh, I'm living the dream. But also, I just genuinely like the taste.
So I think this is more chocolate than coffee. I'm not getting a huge amount of coffee from it. It's tasty. It feels boozy. It's 8.4%. It feels boozier than that. It's tasty. I don't think it's espresso martini in the vein that we're looking for. It's sweeter than the Wipe and Trude one.
Mine is 7%. I think the more I'm sort of drinking it as well, the more there's these. I'm guessing where it's got that cinder toffee. Like I am getting more of this like smoky kind of like this very very subtle smoky element to it
Nice.
alongside the toffee and honeycomb, which is just adding a very interesting like depth to flavor because I quite like when there's a bit of complexity there and like you can have a beer like you know the milkshake where it's just like there's no frills, like straightforward, just really amazing, just milkshake, milk stout, absolutely great, and you don't have lots of layers of like depth to it or anything. It is just great. And then you can have something that is just so complex that they just like sometimes the depth of flavor for me and how interesting the flavor changes to have so many different elements to it for me is just what can like edge it that much higher because you go, oh, it's just a really interesting drinking experience because every sip you kind of go, oh, and there's another element that I haven't spotted before, and then this sip has brought it out. And yeah, I really like this. I would say for the 7% it does taste about on par with 7%. Like I wouldn't say it tastes less than, I wouldn't say it tastes particularly boozy. Very smooth, very well made. Espresso martini for me it is not, but again it's quite difficult because we're not talking about a straight espresso martini, we're talking about some type of variation type creation. So I think for me the toffee and honeycomb and cinder element are definitely stronger than any coffee flavor. Like I think that sweetness takes over the coffee flavor. I would say, just as we said with the Wiper and True, I actually think that this would make a really killer beer cocktail to mix in for an espresso martini as well.
I'm now getting some aroma.
Do you think it's potentially too cold?
Possibly. I mean, it's not. You know, between me smelling it originally and now, there's not that long a time. So I'm wondering if whatever it was volatile and has
gone its way.
Gone now, but I'm getting.
It's opened up now. You've had it sat in the glass for a bit.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that of the smell that I had originally, but now I'm getting icing sugar.
Nice. Okay.
And dark chocolate, which is far better than it was when it first came out of the can.
I love how you immediately were like, "Oh no!" Like it smells metallic.
But it smelled like the inside of the can. It's weird.
Oh,
it's better now.
It was. To be fair, I wasn't expecting you to have such a pleasant reaction to the taste after the way you like reacted to the aroma.
It tastes great. Like it's very sweet. So probably, if this had a bit more coffee element to it, it would be very espresso martini, I think. It's just I'm finding it a bit more chocolate than coffee. Other people may not. Maybe they'll pick up the coffee more than me, where I'm picking up the chocolate. But I mean, it's a nice beer.
It'll be interesting. I'm really excited to try mine. This is when you go, oh well, we've already recorded and you can't have it anymore, and I'll be like, no, I need it.
It's in your bag already. There's a bag.
You can't take it out. It's in my bag and you can't take it out. I'm excited to try that one, to be fair. Let's revisit these in a minute. Let's let them sit here for a minute. Revisit them in a minute. So I'm gonna sip on the one that I made a little bit, and we can talk some fun facts about espresso martini. I'm going to tell you some fun facts. You can just react to them however you want.
Thank you.
Let's dig in. So, I didn't say this earlier, but I wanted to say this earlier, just based on, I don't remember what you said, but you said something and I wanted to be like, but. So, it's not actually a martini. I think it's when we were talking about the olive garnish stuff. Not actually a martini. Despite its name, it doesn't have any gin or vermouth in it to make it a martini. So for anyone that doesn't know, you need to have that element for it to be a martini. This does not. It's strictly because it's in a martini glass. So there we go.
Okay.
This fact I found out by sheer coincidence while I was reading an article about something else, so I noted it down. There were more Google searches for espresso martini in the US in December of 2022 than any other time in history, apparently, according to this one article. Apparently, there was a big revival during the COVID-19 lockdowns, which could probably explain that as well.
Can we go back and do they know why there was a spike in at
There was
that time?
literally no rhyme or reason. No, this one article basically said there was more Google searches for espresso martini in the US specifically during 2022 in December than any other time in history. And then I read another article that basically said there was a big revival of espresso martini drinks during the COVID-19 lockdown.
Okay.
So all I can be led to believe is that,
It's kind of
because of COVID, people kind of got back into cocktail making and got to espresso martinis were like the go-to that everyone revival in the sense of like, I guess maybe it had dwindled and then the popularity obviously went back up. And I'm guessing by 2022, Christmas time, people are probably going, I'm at home, I've got people around, what cocktails can I make? Let's go espresso martini. No rhyme or reason behind it, but I just found that very interesting. I thought I'd share. This is a good one. So traditionally, unlike a blue cheese stuffed olive, the garnish of an espresso martini is comprised of 3 coffee beans. So the 3 beans are thought to represent health, wealth, and happiness. So according to superstitions, it brings good luck.
Nice.
I didn't know that. I always kind of thought like, you always get this garnish, and I thought it was just because everyone went, well, that's just the garnish for espresso martinis.
I knew that it was always 3.
I didn't know it was always 3. I knew it was always coffee beans. So I thought that was quite interesting. So that's what it represents. Did you know that it was those 3 things, or did you just go, there's always 3 coffee beans?
I don't know. I feel like I did know that somewhere in the back of my brain, but I couldn't have told you that.
Fair. So obviously, talking caffeine count and staying awake drinking coffee, you don't typically tend to think that caffeine is an evening drink, but espresso martinis are often served as a nightcap or an after dinner drink because apparently the balance of caffeine and alcohol provided the exact balance of like relaxation and alertness, this unique balance between relaxation and alertness that people really, really seem to enjoy in the evenings. The caffeine content can vary depending on the espresso that's used. So obviously, if you're very sensitive to caffeine, you probably want to be like aware of what you're drinking. Like, don't just be like, oh, well, it's going to relax me because the alcohol mixed with the caffeine. Typically, an espresso martini contains around 75 milligrams of caffeine. Obviously, that varies. Apparently, that's the equivalent of an 8-ounce cup of coffee.
Okay.
So beware. How are you with like caffeine? Like, how do you react to caffeine?
Keep me up. No.
On Tuesday, I had 3 cups of coffee, like 3 solid cups of coffee, and I was still like, I'm ready for bed.
Yeah. Yeah. I can drink coffee at night and it doesn't really do anything to me.
Oh, it's so funny, like speaking to people in my family, and I'm like, I'm gonna go have a coffee now, whatever. They're like, what? Oh, if I had that now, and it'll be like afternoon. They'd be like, if I were to have that now, I'd be up all night. And I'm like, really? Like, I can have coffee all day, every day. And I just feel like when I don't have it, I definitely have a caffeine dependency. I get headaches.
Yeah, no, I've got to have at least 1 cup of coffee a day, or at least something with caffeine in every day. But it doesn't. Like, and I do know if I've had too much caffeine, but no, it doesn't keep me awake at night.
For you,
there's other things that keep me awake at night, but coffee is not one of them.
Coffee is not one of those things. Okay. Does tea do the same element for you as coffee, or is it like when you say you have to have a caffeine drink, it's like I have to have a coffee or like an energy drink or a tea?
I don't really drink tea or energy drinks, but I like a chai, so
iced chais. If that's I always have to have my coffee, but if I go to a coffee shop after that, I'm like, iced chai is where it's at. Iced chai latte. this next fact, probably one of my favorite ones, because this is what winds me up the most, but it is arguably my favorite fact, I think, out of all these. So it is an espresso martini. It is made with espresso.
Yeah. Not espresso.
Not espresso. Even though we're going to espresso ourselves when we talk about this, you know, espresso your feelings.
Espresso.
Yeah, more espresso, less depresso is how I factor in my life. But apparently, so many people over the last how many years have called it espresso that error is now shown in the dictionary as a variant.
An alternative. Oh dear.
Have you heard people? I have heard people order an espresso as an espresso.
Yeah.
I've also heard people recently say something like, "Oh, pacifically" instead of specifically, God. And that I'm not. It is just funny when I hear, like, not judging, peace and love, but like when I hear that, it just makes me laugh because it's so off guard. But when someone says espresso, I'm like, it's not the one. It's not the one. That's my favourite fact. It's a variant in the dictionary.
I was in Naples with a guy that I worked on cruise ships with who was from Naples, and he was like, we're going to go get a proper espresso. We're going to put...
He must have been so mad about anyone calling it espresso.
Like, and he was like, I'm going to show you how we do it properly. Like, we sat down. He's like, I'm buying us a round of them. Show you how we do it properly. Like, we put the sugar in, la la. And he's like, and he was like, and he was like going on about how people saying espresso. Oh, he was so mad about it. It was really funny.
I watched some video. It was
beautiful espresso. Lovely day sitting talking about coffee. It was great.
There was some video that someone. It was like a video that was recommended to me, and I don't know why, but it's like, you know, when you get like the Facebook reels or whatever it is. So it was like one of those shorts or something that was recommended. It was like some guy that clearly is, I don't know, an expat or something. Like, he's an immigrant to Italy, and he was there just like, how I've pissed off Italian people with my food eating habits or something.
Yeah.
And like, it was just ridiculous. Like, some of it had to do with coffee, and it was like trying to put things like ordering a coffee at the wrong part of the meal, and it's like really like, and you can just see people in the back. I think one of them is like, who's like putting ketchup on something, and they were like, you see the people in the background, and they're like, and one was like, he got an espresso, and he, I think, tried to like put something in it, and they were like, no. They came over and they were like, no. The guy came over and was like, no, and he like took it away. He was like, no, you
allowed it. That's amazing.
Yeah, they were like, no, and they just took it right away. And I was just like, to be fair, like, as I was watching this guy's video, I was like, he just strikes me, this guy kind of seems like a dick. Like, he's doing things just to get get people pissed off about it. But it was just like watching people's like eyes as he was putting stuff, like they were like in the background, like it was absolutely excellent. Yeah, that one's probably my favorite one. Basically, I said at the start, obviously it was known as a vodka espresso. That was like the first few years, and then when this disruptor went and worked at a restaurant called Pharmacy in Notting Hill, it was known as the pharmaceutical stimulant.
Oh,
obviously probably not a great name.
I feel like that's not a good name.
Yeah, and that was probably like the mid 80s, and then like towards the end of the 80s it became the espresso martini. But yeah, I mean, pharmaceutical stimulant, probably not the one. That's marketing, not great. Needed a rebrand. So yeah, I thought you'd appreciate this one. So coffee and alcohol together in cocktails have been traced back to the 1600s. And in the late 1800s, there was a cocktail that was popular in Germany and Switzerland called the Pharisee, I think is how you say it. It's a very weird, there's an accent type mark that I can't quite get. But yeah, it mixed hot coffee, rum and sugar.
Ooh, I'd drink that.
I probably wouldn't, because I don't drink hot coffee that well.
Oh, yeah,
I don't have. I had it today because it was so cold today, but that was like my second coffee of the day.
How cold it is, actually.
It's the second coffee of the day, therefore it was fine for it to be a hot coffee. And even then, I don't that was like odd exception of like I don't have time to really make myself another iced coffee. And then this one, which I mentioned earlier, this is the last one, but I made reference to it when at the start when you talked about foam. So I thought it'd be good to close it off with this one. So like beer, you got a foamy. So this one has a foamy top, and it's important to the espresso martini because it contributes rich texture and helps release coffee aromas. So it is just like with beer. It's important to have that frothy foamy top.
People.
And they suggest that when you're making an espresso martini that you should shake it for no less than 30 seconds. 30 seconds absolute minimum, because you want to get that like nice foamy top to it.
Yeah.
Which is why when you're like, I don't have one, I was like, that's important.
Yeah,
but I couldn't say why. So there you go, that's all your fun facts.
Nice. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I espressoed myself. I told you all the fun facts that I had. Espressoed. Yeah, I cannot. Oh, the day that I say espresso, just take me out.
Her Italian heart is not having it.
No, that is. Oh. My Italian American heritage is like, no. Don't do that. Oh, yeah. But there we go. So,
right, if Tori Powell, if people want to ask you about, measuring things with your heart, about, how to espresso your depresso.
Oh yeah, I live by espresso, my depresso. It's more espresso, less depresso. Yes. That is a lifestyle choice I have made. But if you want to talk to me about why I feel like my espresso martini is the best. Anyone's can be. It's really easy. But yeah, you can come talk to me on Instagram at adventures_in_optimism, or you can email me at adventuresandoptimism@gmail.com. If you want to talk to both Jo and I, because you want to talk to us about like these controversial variations of espresso martinis, or how disorganized we are that we had this. To be fair, it's not my fault. I didn't have the Yonder, so just bear that in mind before you shred us. I don't have it. She has the new Bristol. I don't have that.
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't know where it is.
But
I have to find it.
That's it. You can talk about your disapproval to both of us for this first recording back. I missed you for this first recording back. You can get us on Instagram at A Woman's Brew, or you can email us at awomansbrewpodcast@gmail.com, or on Facebook at A Woman's Brew. We're also on YouTube. We're on all the podcast platforms, but obviously you don't need to know that because you're listening. So There you go.
You found us.
You found us. You can go support us on Coffee, which hopefully will eventually get something moving on there, but it's in the works. This is literally the first time we had together properly since the start of the year. So keep an eye out on Coffee for what we may or may not be doing in the future. And Jo, if people want to talk to you about that really bold statement you make that you could try a vinegar,
I would try
balsamic vinegar
espresso martini, I would try it. If you know where I can get one, you can get hold of me at my beer school, which is Love Beer Learning. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok and Pinterest, but pretty much nowadays you will just find me on Instagram. I've got all sorts of new fun things happening over there. You should come and have a look at. You can also find me at my website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk. The blog is going to have stuff I'm trying to do, right? I set myself the goal of doing 24 blog posts in 24 to try and keep myself on track. I'm trying. I mean, so far I've only done one.
That's 2 a month.
I've only done one so far. But yeah, come and see what's happening over there. Or you can email me, lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. Tell me where I can find a balsamic vinegar espresso martini, please. I would like to try one.
It's not the one.
Without Tori, she's not into it.
I'll have a sip of yours like I did with that spicy marg, and I went, no.
It was all right.
I don't like margs, so I definitely didn't want a spicy one.
Love a marg. All right, on that note,
cheers.